Hello and welcome to another episode of Coach and Coffee. If you don't have your coffee, go grab it, come back. This nice comfy chair here is for a virtual guest. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Some housekeeping things first. Right now, I believe Hawaii, at least several of the Hawaiian islands are getting hit by a hurricane, or supposed to be. I haven't checked the news today to see, but our prayers are with them so that hopefully everyone is safe and hopefully there's not a lot of damage or anything. I know some people in Kauai and a lot of people on Maui. So, yeah. Even if you're watching this weeks and weeks from now, which you very well may be, you can always pray for them anyway. What was the other thing I was going to say? I think that covers it. Today we are talking about things you can do to strengthen your ankles. A lot of runners will at some point in their running career experience some type of ankle injury, perhaps a calf injury, foot injury. All of the things that I talk about today are things that will help to strengthen those areas overall. This is more specifically for OCR because OCR in the majority of cases encompasses trail running, and while running on trails you're going to be running on uneven ground. You may be stepping on roots and rocks. If you live in an area like me, geographically you're going to be running on very rooty, rocky terrain, and the chance for rolling an ankle or spraining an ankle or even breaking an ankle is relatively high. It just takes one wrong step one time. So we need to think of ways to strengthen our ankles so that we don't have those issues. The less time we spend injured, the more time we can spend training. Also, it's less expensive to not be injured and less painful. So I'm all for going after pain to achieve new things and make yourself mentally tougher, but not injury, just pain. Okay. So while running on trails will help a lot to strengthen your ankles, if you don't have access to trails a lot of times, like many people do not, then what you can do, and that's where it's going to pop up here on the screen magically, wobble pads, wobble boards. Both of these things are very beneficial for your ankles. You can try standing on them with both feet and then progressing to standing on them with one foot. My word of caution, and I want you to all take this very seriously, you may underestimate how wobbly these things are to start, and I don't want you to do that because it is very easy to flip all of a sudden and roll an ankle on one of these things. They are very cheap, they're inexpensive on Amazon, so you can look up one of these things. It may take a while to get to you right now, I'm not sure, with COVID and all of the fitness equipment that's hard to get a hold of now because everyone bought it a while ago and shipping is taking a lot longer to get those things out now. It may take a while to get one, but they are relatively inexpensive. Either of those things is great to work with. If you're going to start working with them, my recommendation, and I wouldn't suggest that you start outside of this recommendation, is be somewhere, set it up somewhere on the floor where you can hold on to something at the same time so you're not risking rolling off of it and falling and all that stupid stuff. So just start smart. Spend 30 seconds on one, and then over time gradually build it up. After a while you can incorporate other movement drills into it, like performing exercises where you're standing on it with one foot, like you could if you're doing bicep curls to strengthen your forearms and grip strength in your biceps a little bit. You can also strengthen your ankles at the same time by doing that. Only do that when you are ready. Don't just jump into doing that type of thing. Progress properly to that point. This coffee's a little bit watered down because I already had a cup earlier and didn't want to get jacked up on caffeine. Not as good when it's watered down a little bit, but it's still coffee. Same thing with the wobble boards, wobble pads, relatively the same thing. I find them challenging in different ways personally. I've had much more experience on wobble pads because I've had them at gyms that I've been at and worked at far more than I have the wobble boards, but either one will be beneficial to you. So if strengthening your ankles is something you need, if you've had a history of spraining your ankles, or you just want to avoid spraining your ankles and you want to strengthen them for better racing, go ahead and get some of those. I'm not advertising any brands. I honestly don't know which brands make them or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. As long as they function the way they're supposed to, whatever. Another great thing to get, and it's very similar but still slightly different, would be a Bosu Ball, which is there now. This is much easier to do both feet on, and then you can perform a lot of different exercises on these that you may not be able to on the wobble boards and the wobble pads, either because those are more unstable, generally speaking, than a Bosu Ball, as far as how they move and how much they require you to stabilize. But then your platform is also much larger on the Bosu Ball, so you can perform a bunch of different things. You can do like lateral movements, shuffling back and forth, forward and backwards. You can do a ton of different things. You can do jump squats on these. Don't do that. Do not do it unless you are properly able to do it. I'm not telling anyone to risk anything here, so don't say that I did. Proper progression, if you're capable, if you have the ability, then that's something you could look into. There's a lot of different things you can do on it, but it will be beneficial towards strengthening your ankles. You can do single leg or have both legs on there. If you don't feel like purchasing one of these things, if you don't have the money to purchase these things, or you know, you just want to do whatever, very simple things you can do are just performing exercises while standing on one foot at a time. And this sounds easy, but it can be hard depending on what you're doing. Anytime you close your eyes, your body loses a certain level of its ability to judge where it is in space and to adjust movements to keep you balanced and upright. So if you don't want to get one of those tools, you can always do exercises where you're standing on one foot at a time and you close your eyes and like perform an activity with your hands or something, or you just stand there and try and balance on that. Any exercise like that is going to require a significant amount of stability from the muscles around your ankles, other muscles as well, but we're just talking about ankles right now. So that's going to require a ton of stability, strength from those muscles, and you'll feel yourself like moving back and forth. You'll feel your ankle and the muscles around your ankle twitching and getting tired, or maybe tightening up or whatever, and that's what you want to feel. Just, you know, make sure you're in a place where if you started to fall, you could catch yourself so you don't actually end up falling. There are other exercises you can do, like if you're doing step-ups, maybe instead of just doing step-ups, you do a step-up into a calf raise. And when you go up into that calf raise, it's going to take a ton of stability in your ankle to keep you balanced and upright, and it's going to strengthen your calf at the same time. If you're doing bodyweight squats or weight vest squats, essentially any squats where you're not doing a lot of weight, like maybe a near max barbell squat or whatever, just where you're doing less weight for more endurance training, then when you come up from your squat, consider coming up onto your calves, just like with the step up I mentioned. So anything like that. Doing jump rope will be a great exercise. It's going to strengthen your calves, it's going to strengthen your feet, it's going to strengthen your ankles. So those are all exercises you can do. Don't ever choose not to do an exercise because it seems simple or because it seems too easy. Even if it's easy, if you do it for a while, you're still going to gain benefits. Like, it may be easy for me to stand on one foot for 30 seconds, but maybe it's hard to do it for 2 minutes and just stand there on one foot for 2 minutes. And if you think that's boring, turn on a show while you do it. Just stand in front of the TV and look like a weirdo. Hopefully you don't have a window where people can see you. But even if you do, who cares? They're sitting on the couch, you're standing up, getting some exercise in and strengthening your ankles. All of these things I mentioned, ooh, my shirt's sticking to the chair. All these things I mentioned are all things that'll be beneficial towards strengthening your ankles, and they will go a long way to preventing injury out on the trails. When I first started a lot more trail running, I did have a few issues of ankle sprains, partly because it takes a while to really build up the skills and we'll call it agility for lack of a better word, to step in the right place at the right time going fast down hills. It's always on the downhill where I would like roll an ankle or sprain one. When you're going up steep up hills, it's hard to go fast enough to misstep and make a mistake like that, but it can happen. But if you're running downhill or on flats and you take a wrong step onto a rock and the rock shifts, your ankle can roll right off that, and you might end up hobbling back to your car for miles and miles, which has happened to me. I think it was only 1.5 miles, but still, it took a while on a sprained ankle. So doing these exercises will help a lot to strengthen those ankles. And just as a tidbit, one thing that I found helped was You're right there, dog. One thing I helped with switching, that I found helped was switching from a shoe with a high drop. So when I was initially started trail running, I was in shoes that were either 11 or 8 millimeter drops, and so the stack height on the shoe was a little bit higher too. So your foot is higher from the ground than if you were barefoot, obviously, but a decent bit higher. So if you roll your ankle, the distance that it can roll and the angle at which it's going is much more extreme than if you're barefoot or in a much lower drop shoe with a lower stack. And generally that means less cushion, whatever. We'll not get into all that stuff now, all the nitty gritty. But I found that very helpful to have a shoe with a lower drop and a lower stack for when I have rolled my ankle since then, taking a wrong step or whatever. Smart. I've not had an injury happen. It feels a little bit sore, but I'm able to keep going. There's no residual effects. It's not sore the next day or anything. It's just a light strain of it. Ankle flexibility will also help a lot. So doing stretches for your ankles and moving your ankles. For people with ankle sprains, if they've ever done any type of physical therapy for it, they'll probably know that you go through the alphabet with your foot. So you hold your foot out in front and you try and spell the alphabet one letter at a time. You start at A and go all the way through Z with your foot. And actually, if you just sit here and do it right now, you'll probably find that the muscles around your ankles start to feel a little bit tired at the end because you're moving it in all sorts of directions that maybe it doesn't always get. So that'll help strengthen your ankle as well in a sort of different way. And it'll help it with mobility as well if you keep doing it consistently. I think that's about it. I don't want to talk too much about ankle strength. That's a good bit. I'm feeling a little bit tired today. I did a bunch of tire flips this morning, and more than any other thing I've ever done as an exercise, tire flips just wear my body out. More than deadlifts, more than long runs. They just exhaust me, especially per amount of time spent doing the work. That's it for today. Strengthen your ankles. You'll avoid injury. You'll be able to train better. You'll be able to perform better. And we all want those things, or we wouldn't be watching these videos. All right, that's all I have for you. So I will catch you next time on Coach and Coffee.